Okay, so uh, going to play some games with my Jund deck because I think that might be a little more interesting and a little less spoilery than continuing to play campaign matches from the story mode. I've been working on this deck for 4 or 5 days now. I'm getting it to a place where I really like it, really enjoy playing with it, and just kind of want to show it off. So the idea behind Jund, in general, is that we're playing black, red, and green, and we're looking to win battles of attrition. So Jund is a mid-range deck, which means that when I play against aggro decks, we might both play 10 cards, and I hope that my 10 cards played are better than their 10 cards played. When I play against control decks, we might both play 30 cards, and I hope that my 30 cards played are better than their 30 cards played. But when it comes down to it, no matter who I'm playing against, my goal is to trade resources until we both pretty much have run out of things to do. And when the dust is settled, I want to be in an advantageous position when all those kind of grindy trades have happened. So that's the basic idea behind playing mid-range. Unlike deck types like aggro, combo, or control, which generally represent sort of a rock, paper, scissors approach to deck construction, where an aggro deck should beat a combo deck, in healthy meta, a combo deck should beat a control deck, and a control deck should beat an aggro deck. Mid-range attempts to have kind of even matchups against every deck type, but then reward kind of outplaying your opponents. So that makes it a good choice when you think that you're going to be just a little bit better at the game than the people you're playing against. And since the way that these versus matches shake out, I'm often playing against inexperienced players or even the AI. It's easy to kind of find ways to outplay. So that's the idea here. So card choices in the deck. Unbridled Growth is my only true one drop in the deck. It's deceptively good. First of all, it's very difficult to have good mana in this game, especially given that I haven't opened a lot of Zendikar. In fact, I've opened 0 of the Battle for Zendikar Oath of Gatewatch packs, and that's where the best lands available for this duels format are. So given that I don't have access to those battle lands, playing Unbridled Growth is really necessary to fix my mana. But more than that, it does a lot of interesting other things for me. It turns on Surge when it comes into play. It allows me to cast my Surge spells cheaply. It helps me flip opposing werewolves by giving me a chance to easily cast 2 spells in a turn, and there's a lot of werewolves in the decks I play against. By sacrificing itself, it turns on Rally, which a couple cards in my deck use to get bonuses. And kind of most interesting, it stores cards out of my hand. So let's say I have 2 of these in hand and then one of my discard effects going. I can go down to an empty hand, activate a discard trigger, and then sacrifice this to bring a card back into my hand. So I'm kind of like storing cards somewhere else while I play discard effects, and then I'm getting them right back. So really interesting as a 1-drop. There's a lot of play to this card, and I've enjoyed having it. Like I said, the only true 1-drop in my deck. Now I do have a number of creatures on the high end that cycle for 1, as you'll see. But yeah, the only thing I'm actually playing at 1. At 2, I'm playing Elvish Visionary, just because I need the 2 drops, and this is the highest quality one I have. It's basically just a cantrip. You play it and draw your card back, but it can act as a blocker, and it has some similar advantages to the Unbridled Growth in allowing me to often cast 2 spells a turn in the late game to turn on surge effects, stuff like that. But overall, not a great card. I eventually definitely want to replace Visionary with another Hepatra. So Hepatra is an Amonkhet rare. It's a really cool, really interesting card. Basically, how this works is when you play this, your opponent's 1/1s and 1/2s just become terrible. If you attack with Hepatra into a 1/1 or a 1/2, your opponent really is priced into blocking. Even though Hepatra is only threatening 2 damage to their life total, and they're often at 20 when you attack with her, if they let her connect, then you'll put the -1/-1 counter on the creature that they didn't block with, often killing it, and create a snake, which is great for you in the late game. So nobody can afford to let Hepatra hit them, which means it's a very good attacker that can help you clear 1/1s and 1/2s off the board. It also trades with other 2/2s for the same reason that your opponent doesn't want to, let it get through when they have a 1/1 or a 2/2. They don't want to let it through against a 2/2 either. Now, you might not want to trade one of your better cards for their 2/2, but if they're playing a deck that crews a lot of vehicles, or equips a lot of cards, or casts a lot of aura enchantments, then maybe trading your creature for the one thing in their deck that allows them to turn on numerous other cards can be a lot of card advantage too. And you get to decide, right? You get to decide whether you want to attack with those 2/2s or not. So Hatch is great. The ability also synergizes with a number of the other cards in the deck that put -1/-1 counters on things. Originally, when I first built the deck, it had a very heavy -1/-1 counter theme that's kind of died out over time as I've opened stronger cards. And I thought that would kind of weaken Hepatra, taking out some of those effects, but it really hasn't. She's just really, really good on her own. So, yeah, keep it. Hepatra's storyline is also really interesting, too. If you go read the stories from Amonkhet Block, which are all tragedies, hers is a cool one, I think. Anyway, at the 3 slot, now things start to get busy. Reckless Racer is really just a 2/3 first strike. 2 power first strikes, just pretty darn good in this format. The ability to cycle through your deck by rummaging isn't bad either. It's only useful incidentally, maybe every 3 or 4 games or so. You're really paying for the 2 power first strike. So yeah, I mean, eventually these guys will get replaced. There are better cards, but at this point in the deck's history, they're pretty good. Nissa is my first win con. She either comes in when you're at 3 mana or at 6. At 3 mana, she's ramping you. At 6 mana, she's instantly flipping into Nissa Sage Animus. I've never activated the -2 ability to create the 4/4. It's just not really great in this format. There's a lot of ways that people have to deal with tokens. Like generating an extra card a turn and ultimately threatening to end the game with her -7 are really, really useful. Even most control decks in the format can't deal with the -7. The 2 big removal spells that control decks run are Languish, which obviously doesn't do anything against this because the elementals have more than 4 toughness, and Languish just hits things with 4 or less. And Planar Cleansing, which doesn't destroy lands. So they survive through Nissa's elementals survive through Planar Cleansing. So they really survive all of the commonly played mass removal spells. So yeah, Nissa's awesome. Wins a lot of games when I cast her. Next win con at 3 mana is Ronus. Ronus is okay. Your opponent can easily keep you off of the 4-power creature, and therefore prevent Ronus from doing too much, unless you're already so far ahead that that you're going to win anyway. But at the same time, the threat of the 3 mana ability, whether Ronus is able to attack or not, is really good. And an indestructible creature is just really, really useful because you end up kind of torching your own board a lot, and having Ronus survive that and continue to threaten can be really cool. Lightstream Druids, another kind of suboptimal choice here. In case you don't know, in most kind of decks like this, in Real Magic, people would play Birds of Paradise, which is just a 1-mana creature that has the same ability, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So I'm kind of paying 3 times as much as I'd want to for this. I do get more attacking power than Birds of Paradise has. Birds of Paradise is a 0/1, but you almost never attack with this kind of creature anyway, so it's just not worth paying 2 mana for an extra 2 power. As soon as I find other ways of producing mana acceleration, I'll swap them out for Lightsprint Druid. So I know that things like Rampant Growth are available, that there are some Kaladesh cards that are a little bit more effective in producing extra mana, stuff like that. I'm just not opening those kind of packs yet, so I'm stuck with Lightsprint Druid for now. Neheb is just another 2-power first striker. The ability that kind of forces you and your opponent to both discard stands in for what a Liliana of the Veil would do if this was kind of a more traditional modern Jund deck. Yeah, combos well with some of my other discard effects, but mostly not really all that much more useful than my Reckless Racers. They both are 2-power first strikers. In fact, the Racer has a little bit more toughness. So just like I intend to eventually replace the Racer, I'll eventually replace Neheb and maybe go throw him into a dedicated like Minotaur tribal deck. That might be fun. But as it is, he's just kind of a medium level card in this deck. Gravedigger is awesome. Instant card advantage. I always have creatures in my graveyard by the time I get to them, and especially the ability to bring back my big cyclers is pretty darn good. 2-power blocker ends up being okay as well. Like you are getting some value out of Gravedigger even after he's already hit the battlefield a lot of time. Ronus can pump him up to be able to attack, etc., etc. Not bad at all. Soul Stinger is the last of my kind of concessions to a general -1/-1 counter theme in the deck. So this guy comes in, puts counters on himself, and later when he dies, puts those counters on something else. It's not a bad card. You have some difficulty maneuvering it into a spot where you can get a 2-for-1 from it, but when you pay other decks that have dedicated -1/-1 counter abilities, like there are some decks that play this theme pretty exclusively, it's really good against opponents trying to do that, which is why it's the one that's kind of stuck around in my deck, although I have more copies of it that I'm not playing, and it'll probably be the next card I remove from the deck, honestly. Alright, next WinCon, another god, Hazoret here. Hazoret is one of the best cards, I think, in this whole duels format. Obviously, she's great in the standard, she's even better here. She comes in, she can immediately threaten to attack for 5, is indestructible, has haste, so very quickly kind of cleans up games when your opponent thinks they finally stabilized against control decks. And then the discard to deal 2 damage to each opponent is great if you do happen to play her into a board stall or play her early when you still have a bunch of cards in hand. Pia and Kieran is the kind of optimal turn 4 play. You don't want to play them too much after that. But your opponents generally struggle to play against these artifacts well. Like, I don't think many people quite have, well, I wouldn't say many, but a number of opponents, including the AI, have difficulty kind of knowing when they should and shouldn't attack into or block these 1/1s, assuming you have 3 mana open to activate the ability and make those trades profitable. So, just a lot of play to this card. It would be better, obviously, if I had more artifacts in the deck and I could activate the ability more often. I have literally 0 other artifacts in the deck, but I don't keep P and K around for a long time anyway, so it's not like I'd be getting a lot of instances of use of the ability. Crocodile the Crossing, like Hazoret, just a haste creature that can kill out of nowhere. Also, some really minor interaction with Hepatra, but yeah, I just like having another haste creature. When I find kind of more powerful red cards, like a Glorybringer, Glorybringer will definitely take this slot over Crocodile the Crossing. But for now, fine to have. Like, definitely above average in my deck, even though it's replaceable by better rares. Lightcraft Cavalry is my Revolt creature, the one that's turned on by sacrificing those enchantments. Becomes a 6/6 Trampler. Not much I can say about that. I mean, just your standard top-end green beatstick. Similarly, Decimator Beetle comes into play as a 3/4, but then as soon as it attacks, goes back up to a 4/5 and puts a -1/-1 counter on the creature's defending player controls. So just a good, again, all-around beat creature. Also, obvious interaction with Hapatra, where if Hapatra's managed to kind of stay around into the late game, she might not be attacking anymore, but then Decimator Beetle comes down and suddenly she's tossing snakes everywhere again. Then my removal spells. I have 4. So I've got 2 Flesh to Dust at instant speed. 5. 2 Boulder Salvo. I tried my best to play for their surge cost, and then also over here 1 Never. Never to return. None of these are good. These are all terrible. The ideal replacement for Flesh to Dust is Fatal Push, but I would have to be opening Kaladesh block packs to get Fatal Push. Obvious replacements for Boulder Salvo are, I don't know, like the lightning bolt spells, maybe the energy one from Kaladesh allows you to pay energy to kill a creature, but definitely something at instant speed would be way better than this sorcery speed Boulder Salvo. And Never, although it has play against Planeswalkers, and I do occasionally use the return side to clear something out of my opponent's graveyard, and that's good in some matchups. Like it's really good against the White Angels decks that play Gisela and Bruna, because it's really, really difficult for me to beat a Brizella and return to take out Gisela before Bruna comes down is pretty important in those matchups. But that's really situational. Like I said, all 5 of these removal spells could be replaced for something better, but the removal in Amonkhet, the spot removal in Amonkhet, and the removal in Origins just isn't up to snuff there. Amonkhet has more mass removal, and Origins just doesn't have much good removal at all. Yeah, so those will all eventually get replaced. Chandra's Ignition is one of the best spells in the deck. It interacts incredibly well with both gods. It interacts really, really well with Hapatra's Death Touch tokens. It's often the last spell I cast in the game. It kind of wins out of nowhere. So basically, one of your creatures deals damage to each other creature and each opponent. You can almost always set this up to wipe the opponent's board, unless they have huge things for some reason, just because you often have the bigger creatures on the board, or at least you never have the smaller creatures on the board. You're bigger, you're tied. The indestructibilities on your gods stop them from dying if you activate another, or you target this to another creature. So you end up with 2 creatures when it's resolved, or even 3 if you have both of your gods in play. The damage is dealt by the creature, so if you target one of your Death Touch snakes, it will deal lethal damage to absolutely everything. And the damage that you deal to your opponent when you point this at, your 6/6 or something is really significant too. So yeah, Chandra's Ignition, great card. Really am looking to pick up a second one when I go back to opening Origins. Final win con in the deck is Liliana Death's Majesty. Pretty straightforward here. She protects herself with zombies and looks to recur your strongest threats from your graveyard over and over and over again. I've never activated her -7. I don't think it's particularly good. If you, in a deck like mine, where I always have big creatures in my graveyard to keep getting back, if I'm like in a position so far behind that I need to destroy all zombies, I'm pretty worried anyway. I have had interesting games where both me and my opponent have Liliana, and if they're a dedicated zombie deck, they're relying on the -7, but then I can use Liliana to kind of power a bunch of zombies myself to blank their -7, and the zombies that I'm making are bigger than their zombies, so that's been fun. But yeah, -7, totally useless. Other 2 abilities, great. Then my big cycling creatures, 4 Desert Ceradon, just because it's another 4 1-drops basically, and 1 Greater Sandworm. These are just like the giant creatures that get reanimated, that help me kind of smooth out my draws in the early game, just standard top end. They are replaceable when I find kind of bigger things within the packs that I'm opening. I mean, I could probably get the same sort of value that I'm getting out of Desert Celadon for 5 or even 4 mana with some rare creatures, but for now they're good to have. Likewise, Birthing Hulk, my other 7-drop. It's really good. I mean, it comes in, it can't be killed because you regenerate it using the tokens that it makes right when it comes in, and then after that, turn after turn, you can regenerate using colorless mana, which we have a land using colorless mana in the deck, so pretty tough for opponents to deal with, but at the end of the day, I don't necessarily want a 7-mana creature in the deck if it doesn't win the game automatically, and Birthing Hulk doesn't win the game automatically by any means. So all these guys will get replaced. Mana. Mana is pretty interesting. It's forest heavy. I do have 17 green mana symbols to only about 10 of the other colors, but more than that, all my low drops are in green. So I play 5 forests and only 3 mountains and 3 swamps. Forests also are necessary to be in the deck for Nissa's ability to work, so I don't want to draw all my forests, so it's good to have a lot of them. 2 each of the M10 check lands in my colors. These guys are good, and like playing to turn them on is a good way to kind of draw advantage out of the deck. Evolving Wilds I would love to have another couple of, because it's better than everything that follows after it, but so far only 2. I'm not sure if you can get more. I think there might be some available in Zendikar, because I think I've seen one with an alternate picture, so I assume that means that I can have more than 2. Most commons you can get 4 of one way or another, as far as I know. And then, yeah, Cradle of the Accursed. It does have the ability to create a 2/2 zombie, but I'm much more likely to use it for the colorless mana for Birthing Hulk. And then 2 each of these really terrible enter the battlefield tapped and then just produce 2 colors of mana lands. I wouldn't like to play these. I'd like to replace these all with Evolving Wilds if I could. Or obviously anything better than Evolving Wilds, but even like if I'm just replacing commons with commons. But I can't afford to. I do have like double black mana costs in Liliana and double red mana costs in Pia and Kieran, so it's just not something I can afford to just turn these into, say, forests. I need green mana sources that can also produce black and red, and this is just the best I can do. Again, we do have the battle lands in Battle for Zendikar that would instantly replace these and become the best lands in my deck, but I'm just not opening those battle packs. I'd have to open something like 80% of the set to guarantee myself 2 of each, since they are rare. Yeah, that is the deck. It's a lot of fun, a lot of play to it. As you can see, there's still a long way to go with it. At this point, I've opened about 20% each of the available Amonkhet and Origins packs. I've gotten reasonably lucky. I mean, opening both a Ronus and a Hazoret already out of the Amonkhet is kind of crazy. Like, that shouldn't happen until I've opened closer to 40. I shouldn't get 2 gods at all until I've opened closer to 40% of the set, since you get 1 copy of each god, and there's 5 gods. And to get the 2 best ones for this deck, out when I opened 2 before I should, is really great. But yeah, there's still definitely a long way to go. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Now we're going to go play some games with this. Thanks for watching.